Welcome to the Exodus Companies podcast. My name is Jared. I'm the founder and CEO of the Exodus Companies. Tonight I've got a topic that is near and dear to my heart, but also my entire team's heart. And that is the topic surrounding culture. And I know a lot of people like to throw that word around, and I think there's a lot of misinterpretation or misunderstanding of what culture is and what it isn't. And our team and our mission surrounding everything that we do at the Exodus Companies is about impacting culture and impacting the community around us. And as we kicked off the Exodus Companies last year and we started laying out the core values, the beliefs that drive all of our actions, we laid out 7 different words that I called the 7 F's. And because the podcast is fairly new and because you're still learning who we are as people and what our business and our entire community is all about, these 7 F's will help us to teach you and also help us to define what we believe good culture is. So before I dive into any of those 7 F's, I wanted to take a second to define culture. What is culture? What does that mean to us as individuals? What does culture mean as a community? And my question is, can a country or any group of people exist, any community of people exist without culture? And at the end of the day, how I personally define culture and how we define culture is a set of values that are agreed upon among a group of people. And now it can be far more complex than that. And culture can't necessarily just be boiled down into this left and right, black and white box. There's a lot of different traits that go into culture. But at the end of the day, if we cannot accept a group of set values as a foundation, then we don't have culture. And that's the problem that I see with our entire nation today is we have just completely bastardized everything that used to be a foundation, and we've thrown it out and said, you know what? We don't really care about a set group of ideals that we all agree upon. And instead, what we're going to do is just roll with the ebbs and flows of whatever makes us feel good in the moment, whatever gives us immediate gratification, whatever makes us feel nice. That's what we're going to gravitate towards. And I believe that culture takes hard work. You can't just get culture because you exist. And you're not just going to get culture because you grew up in an area where other people did. Ultimately, culture takes hard, intentional work. This is not accidental. And when we look back to the foundation of, just take the United States, for example, there was an intentional foundational construction that occurred. And these were set values that we all agreed were going to be the backbone and the driving force of every single thing that we did. And when we look at culture today and you see what is going on around us, I've got a question for you. Do we have culture? Does a culture exist at all in our nation? And the way that we can measure that, I believe, is the 7 F's. So now I want to introduce you guys to the 7 F's of culture. And if you are watching on YouTube, you see that I have a hoodie on that has the 7 F's of culture on it. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this podcast. So reading these off, we have faith, family, fitness, finance, fulfillment, freedom, and fruition. And in my opinion, these are the 7 ingredients that are going to build a healthy culture, one that is cohesive, one that is focused on broader goals and missions, one where people that are in that community can experience a better life. Now, I'm not saying that if you aren't the greatest at any one of these, that you're just failing miserably. What I am saying is if we're not being intentional about all 7 of these, then we're missing out on some of those aspects of life and our potential and things that we could reach. We're missing a piece of this. And I think in general, if you read these 7 F's off, you are going to see that our culture in general is missing most of these. And do we honestly think that it's a coincidence that we're missing all of these different traits and characteristics of a healthy culture and our culture's slipping? To me, it is very obvious that because we have just haphazardly navigated our lives without any intentionality on these 7 F's, we are getting horrible culture, a weak culture, one where men aren't stepping up and leading, one where we don't have people that care for each other. We don't have a broad mission in our nation anymore. So diving into these 7 F's, we're going to start off with faith, and we're going to go through each one of these and give you my personal lens of what I believe. Now, keep in mind, I wrote these 7 F's out knowing that for each of us as individuals, there is some nuance, and the way you see the world might be a little bit different than how I see the world. But I think, again, as we move forward with a culture, we're going to have to agree on certain foundational principles in order to thrive. So when I look at faith, most people are immediately going to say, that must be your religious beliefs. And for me, you would be correct. I'm a Christian man. I have a set of beliefs that drive everything that I do. Now, if we boil that out bigger, aside from what I believe in my religious life, what else do I put my faith in? Do I have faith in my fellow man? Can I trust people around me to do the right thing? Have I instilled those values in my family? What are you putting your faith in? Because ultimately, if we don't have faith in our own humanity and the people around us, then it's an obvious warning sign that our culture is slipping. Family. What would you define as family? Obviously, we look at that as our traditional family where there's a husband and a wife that might have some kids. Maybe there's some extended relatives. Maybe you have some grandparents and things like that. But what is a family? A culture is a family. The community is a family. The people that we rely on and we love and we trust, that's our family. And it does extend further than just our bloodline. So are we intentionally focusing on our family? Are we intentionally building a tribe of people around us that have our backs and are focused on the same mission? Finance. Finances in this country are horrible. People are financially illiterate. And naturally, what comes out of that is wasteful spending, reckless debt. People cannot even control their spending habits, let alone plan out for their future. So if you can't plan out for your future with your finances, how are you going to plan out your future for anything? And again, I'm not saying that you have to be the greatest accountant. I'm not saying that you have to be the best with numbers or have a budget on a spreadsheet that tracks every penny. But are we being intentional? And that's my question for everybody. Are we being intentional about the financial aspect of our lives? The fitness aspect. Are we fit mentally? Are we fit physically? Again, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not somebody out here who's lifting weights, pumping them up in the gym every single day. I'm not running miles on backcountry roads. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be in the gym cranking those weights every single day. Are you mentally fit? Are you spiritually fit? How is your life in all aspects? What would you define as fitness? And again, from my personal lens, it's far more than just how is my physical form, although I do think that that's an important aspect. When we look at the fulfillment, are you fulfilled? Do we even know what it means to be fulfilled? When we live in a culture that is so fast-paced and so focused on that immediate instant gratification, are you fulfilled with where you are at today? And I don't want you to use that as an excuse as saying you should just stay where you're at because, be patient. I think that there's a time and place to be driven and to not be okay with where we're at. But as we travel on a journey, as we are moving forward as people, are we fulfilled? And what does it mean to be fulfilled? That is an extremely important aspect that I think most people are going to forget. When we look down here at freedom, what does freedom mean to you? And do you value freedom? Does our culture value freedom? I would look at that as a pulse check and me saying our culture does not value freedom in really any way, shape, or form. It's ironic because our country is based upon quote unquote freedom, but then we try to dictate our fellow man. So we try to control the people around us, especially ones who don't believe exactly the same things as we do. Rather than influencing, we try to dictate. So do you value freedom? And in a culture that's thriving, we can't force people to believe the things that we want them to believe. We have to come to this set of cultural values by our own free will. And we believe with our team that freedom is sacred and it's worth fighting and dying for. So my question is, does our culture value freedom? And we get down to the last topic here, fruition. On our sweatshirt, we have what looks like a little seed sprouting into a plant. And the reason we chose that symbolically is when I think of fruition, I think of something that was planted intentionally. It didn't accidentally get there. We didn't accidentally reach fruition because we just winged it and threw stuff on the wall and tried to see what stuck. Fruition is reaching a point where you see the return on your investment. So we've done these F's. We have followed through with all of them. And because of that, we're experiencing some results. And when I look at culture, what I think I would say would be a good example of a thriving culture is people that are genuinely interested in each other and genuinely interested in each other's success. We no longer are just focused on ourselves. We are actually concerned about the people around us. But we're not concerned in a way where we want to dictate those people forcefully. We want to influence those around us and help guide people to a healthier culture. So when we boil this all down, the 7 F's are an ingredients list that we will mix all together in a bowl in the right proportions so that at the end of this, when we pull that cake out of the oven, our culture is thriving. Our people are thriving. We have purpose. Our lives have meaning. We're not just haphazardly standing on a rock floating around in space with no reason behind it. Ultimately, maybe some of you listening to this podcast believe that we're just, by some chance, we exist. We're just floating around in space. There's not really a purpose. There's no broader plan in play. But ultimately, what I would say to you is that when you have no plan in play, or when you believe that it is just accidental and there's no purpose, there's no reason for anything, you miss out on the ability to build that community and build that culture. So guys, to recap here, I'm just going to read off the sweatshirt again. We've got faith, family, fitness, finance, fulfillment, freedom, and fruition. And those are the 7 F's of culture. And I hope that these help guide you and help direct you as you continue to grow in your own culture and impact the people around you every single day. Ultimately, that's my objective with this podcast, is to pour into you so you're encouraged and able to pour into others. I think that the Exodus Companies is a foundational movement that is going to grow and continue to grow over the next decade and onward. I'm super excited to see where the Exodus Companies goes, and I'm super excited to be a part of your journey and your story. So guys, if you like what you saw here, please consider sharing this podcast with a friend or family member. And if you really loved these 7 F's, if you feel like they really impacted you and really opened your eyes to a new vision of what culture could be, you can check out our website and grab some apparel there as well. I am rocking the 7 F's hoodie. It's super comfortable, very high quality. We also have t-shirts. I'll hold these up over here. Hopefully you guys can see that. We've got a couple different colors of the 7F t-shirts. Hold up the other color here. For anybody watching, these t-shirts are epic. If you can't see, if you're just listening to the podcast, go check out our website, exoduscompanies.com. Go over to the apparel section. You will find the t-shirts and hoodies. It's a great way to support us. As you guys know from this podcast, we're not pumping tons of ads into you. What we really want to do is help you help culture. So we're not going to be running all of these different ads for crazy companies. We are just going to be talking about what we are doing to change culture. And the t-shirts and hoodies are a great way that you can impact people as you're out and about every single day. So if you liked what you saw here, consider supporting us. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. I'll catch you in the next episode.